By 3 to 6 months, babies are beginning to notice and already express preference by race. There was research that looked at how by 6 months, infants living in a homogeneous or same race neighborhood showed preferences for faces from their own racial groups, whereas infants living in more racially diverse environments did not show that same preference for their own racial group.
Welcome back to Rebel News. Critical race theory is a term and idea that seeks to categorize racial groups as the perpetually oppressed or oppressors, teaching students that they are subjected to these realities as a matter of fact as soon as they're born. Attempts to obfuscate these points are top of mind for talk show hosts these days who insist that the definitions are just wrong.
Theory, right?
What I don't think is right is that forcing 8-year-olds in Cupertino, California to deconstruct their racial identities and then rank themselves according to power and privilege. It's intersectionality theory, which was invented by Kimberly Crenshaw.
That's intersectionality. It's a separate thing.
Intersectionality is a separate thing.
Theory. No, it's not, dear.
You had her on your show. You know this.
Yeah, she invented
and
both
the bottom
things.
Line, Joy.
She invented
what you've
both
done
things.
in tonight's segment is exactly.
It's not critical race theory, it's just dividing people by race, they swear. Teaching children to judge each other by race and convincing non-believers that racial inferiority is a belief naturally held by all is very dangerous, of course. And these semantics will undoubtedly play a part in this next story, where toy giant Hasbro, they make toys for Disney, Marvel, and Transformers. They've just been exposed for putting employees through mandatory training that states, as a matter of fact, that infants as early as aged 3 to 6 months are in fact guilty of racism.
By 3 to 6 months, babies are beginning to notice and already express preference by race. There was research that looked at how by 6 months, infants living in a homogeneous or same race neighborhood showed preferences for faces from their own racial groups, whereas infants living in more racially diverse environments did not show that same preference for their own racial group. And this is really important because we see that early exposure to different races is impacting these preferences before babies are even 1 year old. Children as young as 2 are already using race to reason about people's behaviors, and we may see this play out in daycare or on the playground in how kids are starting to choose or exclude playmates and friends.
The man who exposed these videos is David Johnson, a packaging engineer who's contracted by Hasbro. He joins us now. Thanks for coming on, David. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
David, what was your immediate reaction when you were exposed to these training videos? We're saying children under the age of 1 have racial biases. How did you react to seeing that?
I was pretty blown away. I wasn't unfamiliar with critical race theory or intersectionality before. I've known about their ideology for a few years now, but just to have it so in my face at my place of work was just a huge slap in the face or a splash of cold water. As soon as I saw the video, I'm like, I have to let people know about this so that they can understand what's being pushed onto their children. Was there any discussion amongst fellow employees who also had to watch this stuff? Did you guys talk about it at all? No. At the end of the presentation, there's like a small Q&A. But you just get people saying, oh, thanks for bringing this to my attention, or some small applause, but that was really it. So what do you think the goal is here from Hasbro in showing this to their employees? Why is this mandatory or required information for employees? I'm not entirely sure what the end goal is. I know Hasbro has worked with The Conscious Kid before, the company responsible for this presentation. I'm not sure if they're pushing critical race theory now just because it's become so mainstream and they're trying to just kind of along with the bandwagon, but the end goal of critical race theory itself is to divide people. There's no doubt about that. For sure, and the video I showed off the top, why do you think there are all these attempts to obfuscate? Now, Joy Reid does this all the time. She brought on the person who coined the term critical race theory. We know what it actually means. Do you think there needs to be strict adherence to definitions on what critical race theory is, or does the colloquial term of it, has it become its own thing and we're just, muddying the waters at this point? I think most people understand what is meant when people say critical race theory. What they're doing is pushing critical race theory in practice, so which is how they get away with the linguistic manipulations by saying oh, we're not teaching kids directly because they're not reading the direct literature of how to be an anti-racist, for example, but they're pushing the ideals and practices of critical race theory through subversive means.
Now, you had your access suspended, I believe I saw, from the company that's contracted by Hasbro. Has there been any movement on this? Do you know what's going to happen next? What's next for you?
I have no idea what's going to happen next. I have been suspended, yes. I haven't had any personal updates from Hasbro specifically since then. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to let me go or fire me. But like I've said before, if this is the price for exposing this, then that's fine with me. I think it's a worthy cause.
It is a worthy cause. I agree with you wholeheartedly, David. Thanks for coming on. Let people know where they can support you and they can see the rest of the updates on this this crazy story.
Sure. So all the updates will be released for Project Veritas. If people would like to support me financially, they can go to givesendgo.com/supportDavid. But if there are people who are inside other companies where they're pushing critical race theory, then they should reach out to Project Veritas at veritastips@protonmail.com.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Please go to rebelinvestigates.com so we can continue to expose stories just like this.